Tell me if this sounds familiar. You wake up, check your phone, nothing. You tell yourself, maybe he's just busy. Hours pass, still no text. You start making excuses. Maybe he forgot. Maybe he's tired. Maybe his phone died. But deep down, there's a little voice in your head that's asking the real question, does he even care? And that's the question we're going to answer today. Not with wishful thinking, not with excuses, but with the truth. Because let's be honest, when someone truly cares, you don't have to wonder, you don't have to beg for attention, you don't have to decode mixed signals. So today, we're cutting through the noise. No sugarcoating, no more justifications, just one simple reality check. If he wanted to, he would. And if he's not, maybe it's time to stop waiting and start choosing yourself. Now, let's talk about what that really means. Communication is the foundation upon which every strong relationship is built. It is the bridge that connects two individuals, allowing them to share their thoughts, emotions, and experiences. Without it, misunderstandings arise, distance grows, and emotional bonds weaken over time. It is not just about exchanging words, it is about creating a space where both people feel heard, valued, and understood. In any meaningful connection, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, communication serves as the oxygen that keeps the relationship alive. It is how we express our needs, set boundaries, and nurture the trust that holds everything together. When communication is consistent and open, it fosters a sense of security, reinforcing the idea that both individuals are willing to invest in each other. It reassures one another that no matter what happens, there is always a space for honesty, vulnerability, and connection. However, when communication is lacking, the very essence of the relationship begins to deteriorate. Doubts creep in. Assumptions replace clarity. One person may feel neglected, unimportant, or even invisible. Silence can be louder than words, and in the absence of meaningful conversation, a relationship can shift from a place of warmth and connection to a cold, distant void where two people merely exist rather than thrive together. In today's world, where technology makes it easier than ever to stay in touch, a lack of communication often speaks volumes. It is no longer about being too busy, it is about priorities. A simple text, a quick call, or even a small check-in message takes mere seconds, but its impact is profound. It has the power to make someone feel valued, acknowledged, and appreciated. It eliminates unnecessary worries and reassures the other person that they are on your mind. When two people prioritize communication, they create a relationship built on trust and emotional intimacy. They don't have to second guess where they stand with each other because everything is laid out in the open. They know that no matter what life throws their way, they will navigate it together, hand in hand, through conversations that strengthen their bond. The power of small actions is often underestimated. Yet it is these seemingly insignificant gestures that hold the greatest influence over our relationships, our emotions, and even our sense of self-worth. In a world where grand declarations and extravagant gestures often steal the spotlight, the truth remains that it is the little things done consistently that truly shape how we feel about ourselves and those around us. Small actions have the ability to create a deep emotional impact, reinforcing bonds and proving that care, effort, and attention do not require monumental effort, but rather intentionality and presence. A simple good morning text, a quick check-in during a busy day, or a thoughtful reminder that says, I remember what's important to you, these are the things that matter. They may not seem grand or dramatic, but their impact lingers. They provide reassurance in moments of doubt, stability in times of uncertainty, and warmth in a world that often feels cold and distant. Small actions communicate what words sometimes fail to express. They demonstrate that a person is paying attention, that they care enough to be present in the small moments, not just when it is convenient or expected. These small efforts accumulate over time, creating a sense of security and emotional intimacy that cannot be replicated by occasional grand gestures. A single flower picked up on the way home, a note left in an unexpected place, a random thinking of you message. These are the things that make a person feel valued, not because of their size or cost, but because of the thought and effort behind them. They remind us that love, care, and appreciation are not just emotions, but actions that must be expressed consistently to have meaning. On the other hand, the absence of these small actions speaks volumes. When effort fades, when texts go unanswered, when little moments of acknowledgement disappear, it creates an emotional gap that widens over time. A relationship does not fall apart overnight. It arose gradually through neglect, through the slow and steady disappearance of those tiny, meaningful efforts that once made it feel alive. The lack of small actions breeds doubt, insecurity, and emotional distance, making one question their importance in the other person's life. In a fast-paced world where distractions are endless and time feels limited, small actions serve as anchors that keep relationships grounded. They require no elaborate planning, no extravagant spending, just a moment of thoughtfulness and intentionality. They are the reason someone smiles unexpectedly during a stressful day, the reason they feel remembered in a sea of responsibilities, the reason they don't have to wonder whether they matter. Stop making excuses for bare minimum effort, because at the end of the day, effort is a choice. Every action, or lack thereof, is a reflection of priorities. It's easy to get caught up in justifications, to convince yourself that a person is just busy, or that this is how they are. But the truth is simple. People show up for the things that matter to them. When someone truly values you, you won't have to analyze their every move, second guess their intentions, or make endless excuses for why they fail to meet you where you are. It starts small. A missed text here, a forgotten promise there, a pattern of inconsistency that over time becomes the new normal. At first, you rationalize it. They had a long day, they meant to respond, they're dealing with a lot right now. But what happens when those explanations become routine? What happens when the excuses start to pile up while the effort remains unchanged? You find yourself constantly justifying their behavior while feeling more and more like an afterthought. You lower your expectations, accept breadcrumbs, and convince yourself that this is just the way things are. But let's be real, bare minimum effort is a choice. It's not about being too busy, because no one is too busy to send a 2-second message or to check in with someone they care about. It's not about being bad at texting or not good at expressing emotions, because when someone genuinely values you, they find ways to communicate even if it's not their natural strength. People put effort into the things that matter, whether that's their job, their hobbies, or their personal goals. If they can commit time and energy to those things, but you're constantly met with inconsistency, it's not about them being incapable, it's about them choosing where to place their priorities. And the most dangerous part, the moment you start accepting bare minimum effort, you teach people that it's enough. You reinforce the idea that they can show up only when it's convenient, put in the least amount of work, and still keep you around. You train them to believe that the occasional "I miss you" with no real follow-through is enough to maintain your presence in their life. That a half-hearted response, an empty promise, or a last-minute plan when all else falls through is acceptable. You teach them that they don't need to try any harder because you'll always be there making the excuses for them. And the cycle continues. You wait, you wonder, you wish things would change, you hold on to the small moments when they do put in effort, magnifying them to justify all the times they didn't. You tell yourself, they care, they just don't show it the way I do, but deep down, when someone genuinely cares, effort is never in question. They won't just do the bare minimum to keep you there, they will actively work to make you feel seen, heard, and valued. Energy speaks louder than words because words are easy to manipulate, but energy never lies. Someone can tell you they care, that they love you, that they're thinking about you, but if their actions don't align, if their presence feels distant, if their effort is inconsistent, then their words are nothing more than empty noise. People reveal their true intentions not by what they say, but by the energy they bring into your life. You can feel it in the way they engage with you, in the way they show up or fail to show up when it truly matters. Energy is in the way someone looks at you, in the tone of their voice when they say your name, in the way they react when you need them. You can sense when someone is genuinely excited to hear from you, when they're fully present in a conversation, when they prioritize your time together, and you can just as easily sense when their energy is disconnected, when their presence feels forced, when their responses are mechanical and detached. It's the unspoken language of relationships, the way someone's actions make you feel long before they ever articulate their thoughts. When someone truly values you, their energy makes you feel safe, wanted, and appreciated. They don't just show up physically, they show up emotionally. They lean in when you speak, they remember the small details, they engage with you in a way that makes you feel like you matter. They don't make you question where you stand with them because their energy is consistent, reassuring, and intentional. You don't have to pull words out of them. You don't have to decode mixed signals. You don't have to convince yourself that their lack of effort is just the way they are. Their presence alone is enough to affirm their feelings. On the other hand, when someone's energy shifts and they become distant, when their enthusiasm fades, when their presence feels like an obligation rather than a choice, you feel it long before you hear it. You start noticing the delays in their responses, the lack of follow-through on their promises, the way conversations become shorter and less meaningful. They may still say all the right things, they may still assure you that nothing is wrong, but their energy tells a different story. And deep down, you know the truth, even if you don't want to admit it. The hardest part is accepting that energy never lies, even when words try to convince you otherwise. It's easy to cling to the comfort of words, to hold on to the things they used to say, to replay the moments when their energy felt different. But the reality is, energy is a reflection of where someone truly stands with you in the present moment. If their presence feels distant, if their effort feels forced, if their words no longer match their actions, then the truth is already there. You just have to be willing to listen to it. Patterns over promises, because words can be beautiful, poetic, and filled with all the right things you want to hear, but they mean absolutely nothing if they aren't backed by consistent action. Anyone can make a promise in the heat of the moment. Anyone can tell you they'll change, that they'll do better, that they see where they've gone wrong. But if those words aren't followed by real, lasting action, they become meaningless. It's not what someone says they'll do, it's what they actually do day after day without being reminded, without being begged, without needing an ultimatum. A person can tell you they love you, but does their behavior prove it? Do they consistently show up for you or only when it's convenient? Do they make an effort to nurture the relationship? Or do they just throw out words whenever they feel like they're losing you? The reality is, anyone can promise change in a moment of guilt, in a moment of fear, in a moment of emotional intensity, but change isn't about one-time words. It's about repeated actions over time. Think about how many times you've heard the same promises. I'll do better. I'll communicate more. I'll put in more effort. I won't disappear again. I won't take you for granted. And maybe for a brief period, they follow through. Maybe they send a few more texts, call a little more often, show up in a way that feels like progress. But then, just as quickly as they started, they slip back into old habits. The messages slow down, the effort fades, the same excuses resurface. And suddenly you find yourself back in the same cycle, hearing the same promises, hoping for different results. Patterns tell you everything you need to know about a person's true intentions. If someone has repeatedly let you down, if they have a history of inconsistency, if their actions constantly contradict their words, then their pattern is their truth. It doesn't matter how much they claim to care, how many times they say they'll change, or how convincing their promises sound in the moment. If the pattern remains the same, the words are just noise. It's easy to get caught up in the emotional pull of promises. It's easy to want to believe that this time will be different, that this time the effort will last. But real change isn't about grand declarations or emotional apologies. It's about breaking old habits, about rewriting the way someone shows up for you, about proving through action that their words actually mean something. A person who genuinely wants to do better doesn't just say they will. They prove it through daily effort, through conscious decisions, through an undeniable shift in behavior that doesn't fade once the guilt wears off. And yet, so many people choose to believe in promises rather than patterns. They hold on to hope rather than reality. They convince themselves that a few good days outweigh months or even years of inconsistency. But at some point you have to ask yourself, how many times have I heard this before? How many times have I given another chance only to end up right back here? Because when the pattern remains unchanged, when the cycle keeps repeating, when the words continue to outshine the effort, the truth is no longer hidden. It's just a matter of whether you're willing to accept it. Respect your own worth, because the way you allow others to treat you is a direct reflection of how you see yourself. If you continuously accept the bare minimum, if you make excuses for inconsistency, if you settle for words without action, then you are teaching the world that you are willing to tolerate less than you deserve. Your worth is not something that is determined by how others see you. It is something you decide for yourself, and it is something you must fiercely protect. The moment you start compromising your standards just to keep someone in your life, you are telling yourself that their presence is more important than your own peace, that their validation is more valuable than your self-respect. But think about that for a second. Why should you have to shrink yourself, lower your expectations, or silence your needs just to accommodate someone who isn't meeting you where you stand? Why should you have to beg for the kind of love and effort that should come naturally when someone truly values you? Respecting your worth means recognizing when you are being undervalued. It means understanding that love, care, and attention should never feel like a constant struggle to earn. It means knowing that you are not a backup option, a convenience, or an afterthought. You are not someone who should be waiting by the phone, analyzing mixed signals, or trying to decode whether someone actually cares. People who genuinely appreciate you will not put you in a position where you have to question your place in their life. But here's the hard truth. If you don't respect your own worth, you can't expect anyone else to. People treat you based on the standard you set. If you accept inconsistency, if you let someone come and go as they please, if you allow them to put in minimal effort and still have access to you, then you are showing them that they don't have to try any harder. You are telling them that you will always be there no matter how little they give in return. And the more you accept less, the more you start to believe that less is all you deserve. You convince yourself that asking for more is too much, that having boundaries makes you difficult, that expecting consistency is demanding. But none of that is true. Respecting your worth doesn't make you high manageable. It makes you self-aware. It means you refuse to settle for treatment that doesn't align with the love and effort you are willing to give. It means you would rather be alone than be with someone who doesn't appreciate you. Self-respect is not about arrogance or entitlement. It's about valuing yourself enough to walk away from situations that do not nourish you. It's about recognizing when someone is draining your energy rather than adding to it. It's about understanding that your time, your love, and your presence are privileges, not things that should be given freely to those who do not reciprocate. When you start respecting your own worth, everything changes. You stop making excuses for people who don't show up for you. You stop justifying mistreatment or emotional neglect. You stop holding on to people who only give you attention when it's convenient for them. Instead, you start prioritizing yourself, your peace, and your happiness. You start setting boundaries and enforcing them, not because you're trying to push people away, but because you refuse to keep allowing behavior that makes you feel unimportant. And when you hold yourself to a higher standard, the people who truly value you will rise to meet it. They will recognize your worth because you recognize it yourself. They will respect you because you refuse to accept anything less. They will cherish you not because you begged for it, but because you demanded it simply by knowing who you are and what you deserve. Know the difference between interest and investment because the two are not the same, and confusing them is one of the quickest ways to end up disappointed. Interest is easy, interest is effortless, interest is someone showing up when it's convenient, when they're in the mood, when they have nothing better to do. Investment, on the other hand, is commitment, it is effort, it is consistency. It is showing up even when life gets busy, even when things aren't perfect, even when there is no immediate reward. The problem is that many people mistake interest for investment. They see sporadic attention and mistake it for genuine care. They hear sweet words and assume they hold real weight. They get excited over occasional gestures, not realizing that true investment is not measured in fleeting moments, but in sustained action over time. Interest can look like someone calling you late at night, checking in when they feel like it, or making vague promises about the future without any real follow-through. But interest alone doesn't build trust. It doesn't create stability. It doesn't establish a foundation you can rely on. Think about it. How many times has someone expressed interest in you, made you feel special, said all the right things, given you just enough attention to keep you hooked, But when it came time to actually invest, to make an effort to prioritize you in a real and meaningful way, they disappeared. How many times have you held on to someone's words while ignoring their actions? How many times have you mistaken momentary excitement for long-term commitment? The truth is, interest is about convenience. Investment is about intention. A person who is interested will engage with you when it suits them, when they're in the mood, when they have nothing better going on. They might text you randomly, flirt with you, even spend time with you, but only on their terms. They will do just enough to keep you hopeful, but never enough to give you real security. They will breadcrumb you with small, inconsistent efforts that make you wonder, do they care? Are they serious? Should I be patient? But a person who is invested doesn't leave you questioning. They don't disappear and reappear based on their mood. They don't only show up when it benefits them. Investment is about consistency. It is about prioritizing the relationship, not just when it's exciting, but even when it requires work. Investment means someone is willing to put in time, energy, and effort, even when life is busy, even when things aren't perfect, even when there's no immediate payoff. It means they see you as someone worth building with, not just someone to pass time with. And the biggest difference, interest fades. Interest can be temporary, situational, dependent on circumstances. Interest is fun when everything is easy, but it disappears when challenges arise, when commitment is required, when something or someone new captures their attention. Investment, however, is stable. It doesn't waver based on convenience. It doesn't disappear the moment things require effort. A person who's invested in you doesn't let circumstances dictate their effort. They choose to show up because they value you, because they see your worth, because they understand that real connection requires more than just temporary enthusiasm. So ask yourself, are you holding on to someone's interest, or are you receiving real investment? Are you making excuses for someone who only shows up when they feel like it, or are you being prioritized by someone who makes a conscious effort to be present in your life? Are you waiting for someone's potential to turn into effort, or are you seeing real, undeniable proof that they are willing to invest in you without hesitation? Because here's the truth. Interest feels good in the moment, but it doesn't build anything real. It doesn't create trust, it doesn't create security, it doesn't create a future. Interest is cheap, investment is rare, and the moment you stop settling for one when you deserve the other, everything changes. Stop settling for breadcrumbs, because the longer you do, the more you convince yourself that crumbs are all you're ever going to get. The more you accept inconsistency, the more you normalize it, the more you allow someone to put in minimal effort while still having full access to you, the more you reinforce the idea that they don't need to try any harder. And before you know it, you've built an entire relationship, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, on the false hope that one day those crumbs will turn into a full meal, but they won't. Breadcrumbs are just enough attention to keep you around, just enough affection to keep you hopeful, just enough communication to prevent you from walking away completely. They are the invitations that come last minute because the person had no other plans, the compliments that feel hollow because they never lead to deeper action, the occasional phone call that feels like a lifeline because you've been starved of real connection. And the worst part, when you accept breadcrumbs for long enough, you start to believe that they're enough. You convince yourself that the little bits of effort they throw your way mean something, that the rare moments of attention must be proof that they care, that the times they do show up outweigh all the times they don't. You start defending their actions, justifying their inconsistency, making excuses for why they can't give you more. They're just busy. They're going through a lot. They're not good at expressing emotions. But deep down, you know the truth. If someone truly values you, you won't have to beg for the bare minimum, because that's what breadcrumbs are, the bare minimum. They're the lowest level of effort someone can put in while still keeping you emotionally attached. They are not commitment, they are not prioritization, they are not love, they are not respect. They are just enough to keep you from walking away, but never enough to make you feel truly secure, seen, or valued. And let's be clear, someone who genuinely cares about you won't string you along with breadcrumbs. They won't leave you starving for attention and then give you just enough to make you stay. They won't play the game of disappearing and reappearing, of giving and then withholding, of making you feel like you have to prove your worth to earn more of their time, effort, or love. When someone truly wants to be in your life, they show up consistently. They don't leave you guessing. They don't treat you like an option. So ask yourself, am I accepting crumbs when I deserve the full meal? Am I holding on to someone's potential instead of their actual effort? Am I making excuses for someone who has already shown me through their actions that they are unwilling or unable to give me more? Because at some point, you have to stop waiting for them to change. You have to stop hoping that the small gestures they give you are signs of something bigger. You have to stop allowing yourself to be emotionally manipulated by inconsistency, by moments of effort that are designed to keep you just close enough but never truly fulfilled. Because the truth is, people will continue to give you crumbs for as long as you're willing to accept them. But the moment you demand more, the moment you stop settling, the moment you make it clear that you will no longer accept less than what you deserve, everything shifts. You either see them step up and give you more, or you free yourself from the cycle of waiting, hoping, and settling for less than you truly want. And when you finally walk away from crumbs, you open yourself up to the possibility of something real, something fulfilling, something consistent, something that doesn't leave you questioning your worth. Demand the standard you deserve because no one else is going to do it for you. If you don't set the bar, if you don't enforce the level of respect, effort, and consistency you expect, people will give you whatever is easiest for them. Whatever requires the least amount of energy, whatever keeps you around without requiring them to grow, commit, or show up fully. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate, by what you let slide, by what you continue to accept, even when it doesn't align with what you truly want. When you don't demand the standard you deserve, you end up negotiating with your own worth. You find yourself justifying behavior that doesn't sit right with you, lowering your expectations piece by piece just to keep someone in your life, accepting treatment that leaves you feeling undervalued, unseen, and unfulfilled. You tell yourself that maybe you're asking for too much, that maybe love or friendship or connection is supposed to feel this way, that maybe this is just how relationships work. But deep down, you know the truth. You know when you're settling. You know when you're making excuses for behavior that wouldn't fly if it came from a stranger. You know when you are allowing someone to put in less effort than you would ever allow yourself to give in return. The problem isn't that people don't know how to meet your standards. It's that they don't have to if you don't enforce them. If someone knows they can cancel on you last minute without consequences, Why would they respect your time? If someone knows they can ignore your needs, disappear when it's inconvenient, or only show up when they feel like it, why would they change? Why would they suddenly step up if they've learned through your actions that you will stay no matter how little they give? Demanding the standard you deserve is not about being difficult. It's not about being harsh or unreasonable. It's about self-respect. It's about recognizing that you are not an afterthought, that your time, your emotions, and your energy are valuable, and that anyone who wants to be in your life should be willing to meet you where you stand. It's about understanding that high standards don't push the right people away, they push the wrong ones out. The people who belong in your life, the ones who truly care, will rise to meet your standards, not complain that they exist. And yes, setting the standard means you will lose people. It means some will walk away because they are unwilling to put in the necessary effort. It means some will get frustrated because they were comfortable giving you less. It means some will make you feel like you are asking for too much. But here's the truth. You are not asking for too much. You are just asking the wrong people. The right person will never make you feel like basic respect, effort, and consistency are unreasonable demands. They will never make you feel guilty for having expectations. They will never make you question whether you are worth the effort. And when you demand the standard you deserve, you create a life where you are surrounded by people who truly value you. You stop wasting time on relationships that drain you, on connections that make you feel like you have to constantly prove your worth. You stop settling for half-hearted effort, for mixed signals, for hot and cold behavior that keeps you in a cycle of uncertainty. You start experiencing relationships that feel mutual, balanced, and fulfilling, where you are not the only one giving, where you are not the only one trying, where you are not the only one carrying the weight of making things work. But none of that happens unless you make the choice to demand more. Unless you stop settling, unless you stop excusing bad behavior, unless you stop allowing inconsistency to have a place in your life. Because at the end of the day, you get what you tolerate. And the moment you decide that you will no longer tolerate less than what you truly deserve, everything around you begins to change. Shift your energy to those who reciprocate, because your time, your effort, and your love are not infinite resources to be wasted on people who only take without giving in return. You are not meant to be the one who always initiates, always gives, always accommodates, always adjusts, while the other person simply receives. Relationships, whether romantic, friendships, family connections, or professional partnerships, should never feel like a one-sided effort where you are constantly pouring into someone who barely lifts a finger for you. You deserve people in your life who match your energy, who value your presence, who make an effort without being asked. When you continue to invest in people who do not reciprocate, you drain yourself emotionally, mentally, and even physically. You start questioning your worth, wondering why you are not enough for them to put in the same level of effort. You replay interactions in your head, searching for clues, making excuses for their lack of consistency, telling yourself, maybe they're just busy. Maybe they care but don't know how to show it. Maybe if I try harder, they'll finally see my worth. But the truth is, people who truly value you don't need to be convinced to show up for you. They just do. They don't leave you guessing. They don't make you feel like an afterthought. They don't make you work overtime just to receive the bare minimum in return. And the more you focus on people who don't reciprocate, the more you miss out on the ones who do. The more energy you spend chasing, convincing, and proving yourself to people who are indifferent, the less energy you have for those who genuinely appreciate you. Because they exist, the people who text you first, who check in on you, who celebrate your wins, who support you without conditions, the people who see your worth without you having to explain it, who respect your time, who communicate with clarity instead of leaving you in a state of emotional limbo. But you won't fully experience the depth of these relationships if you are still clinging to those who refuse to give you the same in return. Shifting your energy is not about bitterness, it's about self-respect. It's about recognizing that you do not have to beg for attention, that you should not have to repeatedly remind someone how to treat you, that you are worthy of the same level of care and effort that you so freely give to others. It's about realizing that love, friendship, and connection should never feel like an uphill battle where you are the only one fighting to make it work. The right people will not leave you questioning your place in their life. They will not make you feel like you have to earn their time. They will show you in consistent ways that you matter to them. And here's the reality. When you shift your energy to those who reciprocate, everything changes. You stop feeling drained. You stop feeling like you are constantly proving your worth. You stop carrying relationships on your back. Instead, you feel valued, supported, and appreciated. You feel the difference between one-sided effort and mutual connection. You experience what it's like to receive love, attention, and care without conditions, without games, without feeling like you have to earn it. But that shift can only happen when you make the conscious decision to stop giving unlimited access to people who only take from you. It happens when you choose to walk away from those who don't match your energy. When you stop chasing clarity from people who thrive on leaving you confused. When you start recognizing that being wanted occasionally is not the same as being valued consistently. Because when you finally redirect your focus to those who reciprocate, you will realize how much you have been missing. You will see how effortless it is to be in relationships where you are met with the same love, effort, and intention that you have always given so freely to others. At the end of the day, actions will always speak louder than words or the lack of them. Silence is an answer. Inconsistency is an answer. A lack of effort is an answer. The real question is, are you listening? You don't need to decode mixed signals, overanalyze responses, or make excuses for someone who consistently fails to show up. You don't need to settle for breadcrumbs when you deserve the full meal. You don't need to convince anyone to value you, prioritize you, or treat you with the respect and consistency you give so freely. Because the truth is, when someone truly cares, you won't have to chase them. You won't have to beg for their time. You won't have to question where you stand. They will make it clear. They will communicate. They will show up, not just when it's convenient, not just when they feel like it, but because they genuinely value you. So stop waiting for someone to finally give you the effort they should have given from the start. Stop holding on to potential while ignoring the reality in front of you. Stop making excuses for inconsistency and start demanding the standard you deserve. Shift your energy to those who reciprocate, who appreciate you, who meet you where you stand. Because those people exist. And the moment you stop settling for less, you make room for so much more.